Jackson, WYO. One afternoon early last year, Kanye West walked into the living room of his California home and found Tony Robbins, the Hulk-sized, concrete-grinned motivational speaker, waiting for him. It had been just a few months since the rapper, producer, fashion designer and cultural firestarter had gone through one of the most taxing periods of his public life. His wife was robbed at gunpoint and a series of erratic concert appearances followed, culminating in a 9-day stint in the UCLA Medical Center. He was in a state of shambles and it showed. Kanye's last 2 years have included wild stretches of chaos, public trauma, and health struggles. Pascal Lesegretain, Getty Images. He could look at me and I don't know why he mentioned suicide, but he could tell that I was very low. West recalled in early June over breakfast at the rustic modernist home here that he's been renting and making music in. Really medicated, shoulders slumped down and my confidence was gone, which is a lot of the root of my superpower, because if you truly have self-confidence, no one can say anything to you. Read more. Kanye West dives into drama surrounding him on new album. Your article continued below. Trump meets with Kim Kardashian as she advocates for prison inmates. Part an Eagles conflict shows Trump battles black athletes to score political points. Robbins, who is known for his boisterous seminars that feature hot coal walking, had been summoned by West's wife, Kim Kardashian West, to stage something like an intervention. And so Robbins looked Kanye West in the eyes and started issuing instructions. Made him stand up, get into a warrior pose and scream. I was so self-conscious about the nanny and the housekeeper that I didn't want them to hear me screaming in the living room, West said. I think that's such a metaphor of something for the existence of so-called well-off people that they're not really well-off, they won't even scream in their own house. He was reluctant. But he screamed. The fix wasn't instantaneous. I still felt self-conscious, West said. I didn't have my confidence back. But it was a start. Article continued below. We need to be able to be in situations where you can be irresponsible. That's one of the great privileges of an artist. An artist should be irresponsible in a way. A 3-year-old. West's last 2 years have included wild stretches of chaos, public trauma, divisive flirtations with partisan politics, and health struggles that played out both in public and in private. Depending on the moment, he has been the subject of empathy, enthusiasm or scorn. For many, his embrace of President Donald Trump and his controversial conversation about slavery with TMZ and may have been too toxic. Certainly, casual dismissal of West has always been a built-in feature of his fame, but in terms of public perception, it's possible he's never been more radioactive. The world is now more skeptical and less patient. Over the past decade and a half, objection has tended to roll off him. Now it's sticking. But over 2 days of extended interviews that took place in his rented Amangani resort home, on long walks through Jackson, and in lengthy car rides spanning eastern Idaho to Yellowstone National Park, edited excerpts from which are included below, Kanye was calm, measured, verging on beatific and also self-aware and willing to reckon with the challenges he'd created for himself. He is still given to flights of conversational fancy and grandiloquence, but the Kanye of this moment is not the overeager attention seeker of the college dropout era, the difficult aesthete who made My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and proclaimed himself the greatest, nor is he the stern warrior of the Yeezus era, prone to interrupting concerts to deliver extemporaneous speeches. He is comparatively pragmatic, attuned to his own limitations, mindful of the shifting pecking orders in hip-hop and fashion, interested in coexistence rather than conflict. Over the past few weeks, he has worked on the release of 5 albums, his 8th LP, Ye, and his collaboration with Kid Cudi, Kids See Ghosts, as well as records by Pusha T, Nas and Tiana Taylor that he produced. Much of that music was made here. He's been coming to this area regularly since early 2017, a couple of months after his hospital stay. "We came here just for healing," he said earlier in the day. "Getting my brain together and expletive." He was medicated then. He'd recently received a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, but over time, he began learning how to not be on meds, adding proudly, "I took one pill in the last 7 days." The night before, he'd hosted a listening party for Ye, flying in hundreds of fellow artists, coastal cool kids, and representatives of the press, radio and streaming services to eat, barbecue and dance around a bonfire. After everyone who had been imported for the affair was exported back home, "We turned jumbo jets to Uber," he said, grinning. West was taking a slow Friday at Big Hole Barbecue, the restaurant that had catered the event. He had a half slab of ribs, wings, fries, slaw and beans, and washed it down with a Mary's nipple, a vodka lemonade concoction. And though it was almost 2 miles from the restaurant to the MovieWorks Cinema 4, where he wanted to see Solo, a Star Wars story, he decided to walk. The day was bright, crisp, a little cool, and his step was brisk. He was wearing a black, gray and white flannel shirt, black Patagonia fleece pants, unreleased Yeezy 700s and an industrial orange ski cap. His security was pacing him in a pair of black Suburbans, going slow in the fast lane, or slipping in and out of adjacent parking lots. West barely acknowledged them, though. Instead he focused on the kids. Dozens of them. They ran out of restaurants and asked for pictures, or pulled their cars over to the side of the road, some of them blasting "Ye." The unplanned attention might have unnerved West in the past, but now he looked pleased to be interrupted. And he made sure to ask what every single kid's favorite song was. The Wyoming listening session was up there with the golden era Kanye West exploits, an absurdist stunt, an immense display of ego, and a genuinely new contribution to the rich history of hip-hop excess. If it was baptismal, it felt doubly so given the few weeks that preceded it. Beginning in mid-April, West returned to Twitter with gale force, posting a torrent of old photos, self-help speak, cult leader aphorisms, clothing line updates and, most disruptive, continued amplification of conservative voices and doubled-down support for Trump, citing their shared dragon energy. "There were people who said Trump would never win," West said. "I'm talking about the it will never happens of the world. People in high school told you things would never happen." To his mind, he was supporting a friend and kindred spirit, and also speaking up in a way others wouldn't, as is his wont. "Generally, I felt that I knew people who voted for Trump that were celebrities that were scared to say that they liked him. But they told me, and I liked him, and I'm not scared to say what I like," he said. "Let me come over here and get in this fight with you." The battle for West's soul went into overdrive in the hours and days following his tweets. John Legend and J. Cole all urged him to reconsider his position. Kim instructed him to announce that he doesn't agree with all of Trump's policies. When his father came to visit Wyoming for a few days, West said, he expressed that he felt that some of the policies were hurtful and that "I'm a person that does not intend to hurt people, never hurts people with intention." He added, "I expressed the example that I have a cousin that's locked up for doing something bad, and I still love him, so I don't base my love for a person on if they doing something good or bad. Is there anything a person could do that is so beyond the pale that you would not support them, even if you liked them? I wanted to make my album cover the doctor that performed my mom's last surgery. I think that's pretty big on the cancel culture territory. I'm starting saying, I'm not canceling him, 'cause the world canceled him. I believe in the court of public opinion that thought has to change." Do you feel there is an expectation of you, because you're a successful black man in this country, to take on certain political or cultural positions? Oh yeah, definitely. When I was in high school, most of my opinions were, like, only me and a couple people who thought like me. Q. But now you feel the pressure to speak for a whole group of people. A. Nah. It's a rhetorical dumbass question. You could just say yes, but do you think there are a lot of husband and wife situations where the husband in the household liked Trump and voted on Trump and maybe the wife didn't, or vice versa? Q. Of course. A. Man, I had my expletive castrated. You have to like Hillary. That's got to be your choice. Q. That's what the family was telling you. A. The family meaning the world, because you're black, because you make very sensitive music, because you're a very sensitive soul. It was like an arranged marriage or something. And I'm like, that's not who I want to marry. I don't feel that. I believe that I'm actually a better father because I got my expletive voice back. I'm a better artist because I got my voice back. I was living inside of some universe that was created by the mob thought and I had lost who I was, so that's when I was in this sunken place. You look in my eyes right now, you see no sunken place. Q. When did that change happen? A. Getting out, learning how to not be highly medicated and, just standing up saying I know I could lose a lot of things, but just standing up and saying what you feel, and not even doing a lot of research on it. Having a political opinion that's overly informed, it's like knowing how to dress, as opposed to being a child. I like this. I hear Trump talk and I'm like, I like the way it sounds, knowing that there's people who like me that don't like the way it sounds. Q. But if he says something like he doesn't want to let Muslims into the country, do you like the way that sounds? A. No, I don't agree with all of his policies. Ordinarily, public figures see microphones as natural enemies, designed to undo them. But this is not how West treats them. He speaks in long, jagged discursions, moving fluidly between subjects, saying he wished Bernie Sanders could have been Trump's vice president one moment, lamenting the awkwardness of a lyric about Tristan Thompson, the father of Khloe Kardashian's daughter, the next. He is in a constant state of self-revision. More than any other famous person of his stature, he shares his rough drafts. He'd come into the public eye via technology, not music. If he were white, not black, West might be viewed as a lovable, idiosyncratic futurist, not a perennial agitator. We need to be able to be in situations where you can be irresponsible, he said. That's one of the great privileges of an artist. An artist should be irresponsible in a way. A 3-year-old, even though this is the sort of behavior that gets West labeled inconsistent, it is perhaps his most enduringly consistent feature. He is congenitally honest, almost shockingly unguarded in his speech. You can almost watch him as he lobs a new thought into the public consciousness, then stands back and watches as it's either embraced or swatted down. Fully rendering his speech would require something akin to musical notation, markings to denote speed, spacing, emphasis, even the word's seriousness or lack thereof, or the percent to which he was certain of what he was saying as opposed to just trying a thought out. Twitter is in some ways the medium least well suited to his thought process. He isn't gnomic, or pithy. He's roundabout, elaborative. This is, generally speaking, an approach incompatible with a media environment that ruthlessly records, dissects and parses each moment, examining it hard for flaws. That hasn't changed West's methodology, though. Not long after his April Trump tweet storm, West posted a long-form video interview on his website with the acidic New York radio host Charlamagne tha God. The setup was tasteful, all neutral tones. It showed West at his most lucid and sharp, and suggested that perhaps smoother waters were ahead. Or not. I felt like it was something missing, West said. I just had a gut innate feeling to go to TMZ. Half the people that are listening to the album are supposed to not listen to the album right now. I'm cancelled. The West, who appeared on TMZ's daily TV show, is much more familiar, loose-tongued, provocative, searching. There was also a vulnerability that was easy to overlook, as when he admitted to having had liposuction. By way of elaboration about the procedure, he said, "As holy as I am and all that expletive, I still do some rich expletive phrase sometimes, but most crucially, and most alarmingly, he said that 400 years of slavery sound like a choice. To West's mind, what happened on TMZ was a failure of language, not ideas. I said the idea of sitting in something for 400 years sounds like a choice to me. I never said it's a choice. I never said slavery itself, like being shackled in chains, was a choice," he said. "That's why I went from slave to 400 years to mental prison to this and that. If you look at the clip you see the way my mind works," he continued, delineating the path of many a Kanye West public conflagration. "I think an extreme thing, I adjust it, he explained. "That's the way I get to it, but I have to push to, the furthest concept possible." The TMZ appearance essentially squandered all of the public goodwill West had accumulated earlier in the day, except in the view of West, who naturally saw the two media appearances as part of the same continuum. "I think it was totally beautiful, both of them," he said. "The Charlemagne one was like the most beautiful funeral you've ever been to, and you close the casket, and say this is done, Q, and the TMZ one. And the TMZ one was the expletive, the casket makes a opening motion and screams, and the people in churches mimes shock and horror and shrieks, slave. Q, how does it make you feel when you know an experiment didn't work? Awesome. I learned so much. I learned about the context of the idea of the word slave. I didn't take it in that context. I think that my personality and energy mirrors Nat Turner, or it had in the past, but that showed me that also that Nat Turner approach would land me in the same place Nat Turner landed, and that I would be legendary but also just a martyr. But I guess we're all martyrs eventually, and we're all guaranteed to die." Q, to clarify, do you believe that slavery in this country was a choice? Well, I never said that. Q, if you could say it again, how would you frame it? I wouldn't frame a one-liner or a headline. What I would say is actually it is literally like I feel like I'm in court having to justify a robbery that I didn't actually commit, where I'm having to somehow reframe something that reframe said. I feel stupid to have to say out loud that I know that being put on the boat was, but also I'm not backing down, bro. What I will do is I'll take responsibility for the fact that I allowed my voice to be used back-to-back in ways that were not protective of it when my voice means too much. Q, back-to-back. Wearing the Trump hat because my voice is unprotected and I believe that the black community wants to protect my voice. By me saying slave in any way at TMZ left my voice unprotected. So it's not a matter of the facts of if I said that exact line or not, it's the fact that I put myself in a position to be unprotected by my tribe. Q, do you feel that if black fans abandon you, that's something that you could come back from? Do you think that is a death blow? It's not going to happen. Q, it's just not going to happen. Like I said, wouldn't leave. Yes, got a bunch of different opinions. You're not always going to agree, but they're not going to leave. Earlier Friday afternoon, West was in the back seat of the Suburban when he spied Victor Outdoor Seconds, a smallish purveyor of second-hand outdoor clothing in Victor, Idaho, a blink-and-you'll-miss-it town about 40 minutes west of Jackson. Within a minute, he was fixated on the store's offerings: well-worn ski jackets, fleeces, snow pants and more. Nothing fancy or luxury, just styles so mainstream as to be almost vernacular. What West saw, though, was pure Yeezy. "I want to purchase a lot of stuff," he said to the store's proprietress. "I don't know where I should put it, though." He settled on the floor, starting with a molehill pile and, over the course of a half-hour, turning it into a mountain. Later, the owner posted a photo on Facebook of 13 bursting full white trash bags and a thank you to West's biggest sale ever. While selecting items, he got a call from Virgil Abloh, who was recently named the artistic director of menswear at Louis Vuitton. Abloh was West's mentee for years, the chosen son who broke free to make his own way. They spoke about the clothes West was finding, about Drake, about the colors of the Ye album colors. Abloh complimented West's facility with earth tones, visual and oral, and gave West his assessment of the album. West pressed Abloh for more. "I'm not cancelled out the culture, cancelled or listening to it. You see me and Virgil's relationship," he said in the SUV on the ride back from the second-hand store. "I don't know what might have been in your mind, but there might have been some place where you wonder if those dudes still talk like that. And you saw, we do. Q. What did you have to cleanse to get to that place, to be back at that rhythm? A. Jealousy and fear. Q. Fear of what? A. Losing, ruler, king, crown. And it was this thing where it's like, okay, you're not the no. One rapper, Drake's the no. One rapper, but you're the number one with shoes, or this or that. And it's like, yo, no more no. Once what's the number one tree over there? Just be one of them. All of them are beautiful. If you cut one of those trees down, what would it be worth? Those look like $400,000 trees, just one of them, and look at how many of them are. Ye is an album of deep vulnerability, West's rawest since 808s. It feels immediate, and in the moment emotional reckoning delivered with the alacrity of a mid-2000s mixtape. Perhaps, it is not surprising to learn that 8 days before its release, West said, he'd had none of the lyrics of Ye written. And he still went to see Deadpool 2 twice. At just 7 songs, Ye is less carefully constructed than the works from his most popular era. But it has familiar West hallmarks, the scars of 808s. On Pusha T's What Would Meek Do, he declaims, no more hit in the scars, I show him like Seal, right? On Yikes, from Ye, he announced the bipolar disorder diagnosis. That's my superpower, he scream-rapped. Ain't no disability, I'm a superhero. I'm a superhero. And on the Ye opener, I thought about killing you, the clouds get darker, today I thought about killing you, premeditated murder, I think about killing myself, and I love myself way more than I love you. Q. On I thought about killing you, to what degree is that literal and to what degree is that metaphor? A. Oh yeah, I've thought about killing myself all the time. It's always an option and expletive. Like Louis C.K. said, I flip through the manual. I weigh all the options. Later, he added, I'm just having this epiphany now, 'cause I didn't do it, but I did think it all the way through. But if I didn't think it all the way through, then it's actually maybe more of a chance of it happening. The following morning, West arrived in the dining area for breakfast around 10 a.m., wearing a red hoodie over a long-sleeved gray Calabasas t-shirt. His personal chef brought him his plate, showing him a slip of paper with a meal's nutritional information before he dug in. Did you see my tweet? He asked. Overnight, he'd sent out a missive putting an end to the reignited feud between Pusha T and Drake, in so much as someone who was not one of the primary participants can do that. Friction between West and Drake has replaced friction between West and Jay-Z as hip-hop's central edible drama, even if at this point the two are, for all intents and purposes, peers. At one point, they were recording music for a possible collaborative album, but then Pusha T and Drake got to quarreling, and on Deppy Freestyle, Drake took aim at West, saying he'd written for him and let him repeat. Yes, Drake had written on The Life of Pablo, which was not a secret. And as it happens, he wrote for West on Ye as well. The hook for Yikes is his. He also wrote a whole first verse. West said, though it didn't make the final album, this acknowledgement is a shock for those who still see hip-hop as one kind of auteur music, the sort in which the vocalist is relating true-life tales, unembellished and autobiographical, and not the other kind of auteur music, in which one figurehead orchestrates a creative enterprise, drawing on a wide and deep range of talent in search of completing a complex but coherent puzzle. West has long worked with songwriters, something that, because it's perceived as heterodoxy, is rarely discussed openly. In this moment of increased transparency, though, he's become zen about sharing the details. It's incredible how we just sit there and just think and rethink, and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite, he said of his studio sessions. We're not pulling off a magic trick here. We're like Tesla, we're not the